Fresh out the box. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Box. Does a rules read of Avatar Legends from Magpie Games. I am the board game guru and game master extraordinaire, Johananan.
It's me, Casualty, CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Box and Fresh Out the Podcast. That's our podcast where we podcast about things, but not podcasts. We podcast about movies, streaming shows, and video games. So check out Fresh Out the Podcast. But today we're not podcasting. Today we're Box Boys.
And looks like I'm joining the boys today for some fun and reading and stuff. And yeah, I'm Michael, aka Mr. Kapow. That's MRKAPAO. And time to get our read on because reading is fundamental. Education on, folks.
It's not just good, it's good for you.
Mm-hmm. No audio on your end, Johan.
I am muted. We're checking out Avatar Legends from Magpie Games. They were nice enough to send the PDFs that we are looking at right now, and also these nice physical hardcover books.
It's a good-looking book.
Yeah, they're thick too. This is a thick book. I'm excited. I've been taking a look at them. Very good stuff. Avatar Legends, the core rulebook, and then the Wan Shi Tong's Adventure Guide are the two books that were sent. So thank you, Magpie Games. We're going to look at them now. So, haha.
I think it's apropos that I'm also eating my popcorn right now with my chopsticks. It's okay. I'm Chinese.
I'll take your word for it.
That it's okay, or that he's Chinese, because I haven't done a DNA test on him. I'm just gonna take his word for it that he's Chinese.
You know, I never considered that he'd be lying about that, but no, I just don't know what apropos means. So
appropriate.
It's the same amount of syllables. No, yeah, apropos. I've heard it.
I want to be fancy.
You know what? If you want to be fancy, why don't you eat your popcorn with chopsticks?
I am.
I know.
Yeah, look at that. He's a step ahead.
I was being apropos. All right. So, anyways, Avatar Legends from Magpie Games. This is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. If you don't know what that means, it's okay. Neither do I. It mostly means it's a type of system that tends to focus on gameplay and roleplay over like rules and that kind of thing. It has a framework, but it's meant to promote roleplay and emotional gaming and stuff like that. This is a licensed game that is in fact a. Welcome to the game.
It's a current, brand new licensed game too. We're not looking at an old game. This one's fresh as of 2023, or did it come out at the end of 22?
It might have come out at the end of 22, but yeah, it is a brand new game. The first thing to mention, this game is set for you to be able to play your game in several different eras. They have the Kyoshi era, the Roku era, the 100-Year War era, the Aang era, and the Korra era. So obviously the times are set to the clock of the Avatar. So each Avatar's life is each era, and then the absence of an Avatar for the 100-Year War is also its own. Well, that would be interesting to play in a world where there is no Avatar, but you know, you kind of know how things go during that time.
Are y'all excited about the supposed next Avatar arc, which is going to be what is it? Said that the Avatar is going to be an Earthbender this time, I believe.
Yeah, the Earthbender. Yeah. That's the cycle. It started with fire, then goes earth, water, or no, it goes fire, air, water, earth. Yeah, that's the Avatar cycle. So after the current waterbender, it would be earth. And then back to fire. Okay, I was looking at it funny. But yeah. I was like, this isn't right.
There's the on page 8. I don't know if you're looking at that. There's the 4 different faces, and so it shows you each era really quickly, so you can tell who belongs in which era, which benders come in where.
Yeah.
That was my little cheat sheet, because it goes Kyoshi, Roku, Aang, Korra.
Yeah. I was looking at that page when we're talking about eras, and then I'm looking at the next page for the other thing. But yeah, the Earth Kingdom, the Fire Nation, the Air Nomads, and the Water Tribes all are playable. I do believe that there are actually 5 classes to choose from, and the other 2 are there 6? Right? I know that there is tech, and weapons. I don't know of a.
So it's the 4 bendings.
6. Yeah.
Yeah, the 4 bendings and then the 2 things.
Yeah, there's 2 additional classes. Here they are. Weapons technology.
I believe Powered by Apocalypse. It's not classes. It's playbooks.
Yeah, playbooks. That's the terminology they use. Here they just call them the trainings. So waterbending, earthbending, firebending, airbending, weapons, and technology.
Yes, because the playbook actually fits in a different way. So basically, you'll pick one of these schools of magic, right, or your class, however you want to view it, because technology and weapons count also. But then, in PBTA fashion, later on you have these different playbooks where you have different character archetypes. And so those archetypes will also slide in with your skills to further differentiate the characters.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and it sounds real intimidating at first, but it's pretty simple.
It's really just, in my opinion, it's 2 things, like in Dungeons & Dragons, where instead of picking your species and your class, now you're picking your bending and your card.
I will say one of the things I do kind of like about the Powered by Apocalypse system is it's one of those systems where it's perfectly fine to play as you go. It actually works better if you just learn as you play as you go with someone who actually kind of at least know the base framework rules, you know?
Yeah.
I will say that, as like a 17 or 18-year-old kid staring at the Dungeons & Dragons player handbook, you can finally start to make some sense out of things if you're there by yourself staring at it. Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. PBTA is a little different. It's a little strange, and it really is a group storytelling game, so you almost need to have a couple of people there fumbling through it together.
I mean, that's how we pretty much learn City of Mist.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the most part, since we play so many games, it just tends to be easier to learn as we play. Because we have some pretty quick turnover with games sometimes. Learning a game, playing it for 10 weeks, and then switching systems, it's a lot. But when you learn when you play, it's not so bad.
I gotta say, there's so many games now that uses the Powered by Apocalypse system.
Yeah, it's very popular. It's kind of the in thing right now to do is to make PBTA. It's what the cool kids are doing.
Cool?
I think there's 2 types of cool kids, right? There's the PBTA cool kids, and then there's the OSR cool kids. And then there's the camp of Dungeons & Dragons folks somewhere in the middle. But I don't know what the hell we're doing. We're just over here playing all sorts of crap.
I don't know that I would call OSR people cool, but hey.
They would call themselves cool.
Shots fired! No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. If that's your bag, that's your bag. I like it sometimes. But yeah,
we're the kids who hang outside the school library or the computer labs. That's what I think of us as.
Yeah, I used to sit in the theater hallway. That's where you'd find me. Michael's hanging out outside the library. I'm sitting in the theater hallway.
I would rather not say what I was doing at this age.
Jahan smoking in the parking lot.
Smoking in the boys' room. Yeah, that's what I was doing. But yeah, so this book's great. If you're a fan of Avatar, it's great. Look at this map. That's all you really need to see to know that it's great. It is a map with numbers on it and the legends, so it tells you where everything is. If you were ever curious, you can find things like that in this book. Also, beautiful, beautiful artwork. More intel, more information, more lore about the foreign nations. Very cool stuff. As a fan, This is very exciting. I've actually, because I knew that we were going to be doing stuff with Avatar, I started watching Korra again. You know, I always forget how cool that story really is.
To harken back to PBTA real quick, when you're playing a game like Avatar, don't imagine your character getting like stabbed in the face or chopped up. That's not how hit points work in this game. In case you're wondering how badly your character gets beaten, every PBTA game sort of has a different way they can approach health, and the way they've chosen to do it in Avatar is with fatigue and conditions. And the thing that's really cool about PBTA is that the conditions aren't just things like unconscious. You can give people things like afraid or guilty or insecure, and those can affect how the character acts in a scene and not just how they physically roll dice.
What page do those rules start on so that we can let's actually dive into this? We should actually talk about this. Yeah.
So there are all sorts of different little pockets of this book of rules, and I've been going through trying to pick out some that I think are thematic and interesting. So these ones in particular are on page 100 or 101.
Oh, damn, that's quite a ways in.
These are the core elements of the game. So this is particular to this game.
Core elements, boom.
Yep.
Okay, so before that is like a lot of the how you play kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was just blowing through that because if we're just reading paragraphs of how to play, I don't think we're really going to get the point across. We're going to need to show the system in action, and we're going to need to be experts of the rules before we dive into rules like that.
Sure. I mean, I think we got to read the rules.
You want to get some of them?
I think we got to read them. I mean, you know, at least to see, you know, we'll start reading them and then we'll stop when it becomes dumb. So yeah, it does talk about it. See, it's saying exactly what you're saying right now, right here. The conversation, playing make believe wasn't all in your head. Used action figures to represent characters, cool sticks and swords, wizard staves, that kind of thing. In a game like Avatar Legends, the role-playing game, you just use different tools. You have the history of the four nations to spark ideas, conflicts, villains, heroes, and more. Regardless of what sparks your your imagination, the conversation usually revolves around your characters, the heroes of the story. So yeah, that is kind of all just how to. I thought the conversation was going to be more about like how the game works. Many sessions, many stories. Does it really just start on 101?
Yeah, that's the more exciting stuff. I mean, the way the game works is, in a nutshell, it literally said this earlier in the book. I just decided not to read it. It says any time that there's something stressful is when the game master can ask for a challenge.
Yeah.
And so then you use one of the moves.
Moves and
that's
dice.
it. That's it. That's the whole thing.
I think
use
that's
one
the
of
stuff
moves.
that people are going to want to know about a little bit.
What moves, what actions can you take?
Yeah, so everything before this, it's going to talk about setting the scene, essentially, being aware, like, oh, we're in a tavern, blah, 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 this firebender comes up to you, he's angry, and that's all that's before this. And then the moves and dice is actually more meat and potatoes.
Also, a lot of the stuff we skipped here was lore building stuff.
Yeah.
It's like all the different eras and what's important in those eras, the different positions around the world. There's some really good, beautiful Avatar, chunky lore in here.
I would actually suggest if you want to learn about the basic rules, there's actually the basic move printout.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to have all the... Actually, I think I have that now.
Basic moves, balance moves, combat exchanges, all that jazz.
Yeah, they have all of that. Oh, basic moves are on page 127 as well. So framing the scene is the first step. That's what we just talked about. But it's the moves that connect your heroes to the fiction in an exciting way. So this is when you get the meaningful, rules-driven action. Moves are like programming language of the game. When you do X, then do Y. Defining the fiction when your characters take meaningful actions. One exciting thing about this kind of storytelling is that sometimes no one, not even the GM, knows what will happen. And that's, anytime you get dice involved. At the start of the game, every companion gets access to the basic moves, which is what Mr. Kapow was just talking about, and can choose those moves freely. We'll get more into that later. Moves, specific moves that point the character in specific directions, and can add more moves over the course of play as they grow. Ah, man, son of a bitch. My cat just knocked over my fan dog.
No.
I skipped a sentence, though. So, each companion also gets their own playbooks moves. This is what you were talking about earlier, Gary. The playbooks, they have moves involved in them. And you can add more as you play and grow. In general, basic moves cover situations that come up all the time, while other moves move more character-specific or rare situations. So triggering moves, this is something that is always confusing in City of Mist, because this is how the GM plays. I don't actually get to roll. I just, like, when something happens, something triggers. And this is triggering moves. Moves don't fire off whenever you think it might be interesting. They are instead triggered by something you say in the conversation, usually an action your hero takes in the fiction. If you want to trigger a move, you have to do the thing that triggers it. You can always avoid making a move, but then you have to avoid taking the action in the fiction. Since every move ties directly into the fiction, all moves are governed by the same idea. To do it, you do it. That's what it says. Which I guess they're saying don't overthink it. If you want to plead with an NPC for help finding a lost child, you have to openly ask an NPC for help, perhaps begging the chief of a village to help search the blizzard outside. And if you decide to fall to your knees and beg the chief for help, you're pleading with an NPC, and the move triggers, which I imagine is one of the basic moves. After that is when you actually roll the dice, which everyone is always super curious about that. PBTA is typically, 2d6? So when you commit...
It's 2d6, and yeah, you get some pluses, and you're looking to beat a 12 plus is a crit.
Yeah.
And generally you're looking to, beat a 9 or a 10?
That sounds right. Yeah, 9 or 10. In City of Mist, a 9 is actually like a partial success with consequences. A 10 is a complete success. But like a 5 through 7 is like an abject failure, which was my nickname in high school.
Remember the other day, Jahan, when your mic was cutting out and we couldn't
It's doing it again?
Yeah. I was wondering, is it on my end? Just on my end?
I could kind of tell it was happening because my thing wasn't lighting up. But fortunately, the viewers should be able to hear me through that because of how I do my audio.
If it's just silent and you think that maybe we didn't hear you, there's a chance that maybe we didn't hear you.
A chance.
Most of the time, it's just the very end of your sentences.
Do not understand why that started.
That was a good one.
If it looks like we're ignoring you, half and half. We're ignoring you, or we just don't hear you.
You'll be either one, really.
Yeah.
Make no assumptions.
Hello, viewer Lord Jesus Crust. Welcome. Hope
what up, Krusty?
What's up, Crust? But yeah, it is 2d6, so it's fine to think. Okay, I'll just read the whole paragraph so we don't miss anything. I
want to add a really quick comment.
Go ahead.
While I do like really those 20-sided dice stuff, being able to roll like a handful of dice, it is very satisfying. I do also appreciate the simplicity, and you don't have to add up so many numbers of just rolling 2d6.
I've played games where you roll so many dice, and as a game master, when you have like 5 enemies that are each rolling 6d6, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep up with. So yeah, doing just a couple, I appreciate the simplicity as well.
I do like, not to talk about other systems too much, but I like the Savage Worlds because they use all the different dice sizes. So when I buy, when you buy dice, sometimes you don't get to use your D10 or your D12 as much. I like the Savage World really uses them all. And I also like the simplicity of 6s, like you guys are saying. I'm a big fan of the age system because I like the stunts. I think the stunts are a lot of fun.
The stunties are fun.
And you can also buy just a bunch of D6s, so that's convenient.
You
I mean,
can, but I
honestly,
kind of like having all the silly shaped dice,
I
and
do
then
too.
once you have them, I want a reason to
honestly,
use them.
as long as you have a Monopoly set, or even I think Candyland, you got enough dice for
Yahtzee.
Powered by Apocalypse game or Yahtzee. Yeah,
Yeah, most people have 2d6 somewhere in their house. But yeah, when you commit to a course of action that triggers a move, you usually end up rolling dice. You don't roll dice any other time. If a move calls for dice, roll them and consult the move for what happens next. Sometimes players snap up the dice ready to charge an action, save the day. Yeah, pretty much ask if you're going to roll. Don't just roll dice. I mean, that goes for any system. I've had a lot of unnecessary dice rolls happen, and like then sometimes I choose to make stuff happen because of them.
It's especially in a PBTA system. It's more of a don't do it, because you're not just rolling dice to do a thing. You know, it's not just your character looking around. It's literally like an extra stunt. Your character can look around. You can look around all you want. Just tell your game master you're looking around, and you probably won't even have to make a perception check unless there's something really sneaky to be seen. This is not Dungeons and Dragons, and it doesn't quite work the same. There's a lot of leeway in a system like this.
Pretty much every roll in Powered by the Apocalypse has consequences. So yeah,
like I said, it's common courtesy and just being polite. You know, it's being a decent human being.
yeah. Ask before you roll. If it's fine to think of the move you want to make first and then figure out how to trigger it, that's fine. Not all moves use dice. Some moves, such as Not Done Yet or Fueled by Anger, tell you and the GM what happens when they are triggered. No dice roll needed. But hits and misses, you roll 2d6, add the two results together, and follow the outcomes of the move. Traditionally, moves ask you to roll with a stat, like roll with harmony or roll with passion. Meaning you would add the stat to the dice. A character with harmony +2, for example, would add +2. A character with passion -2 is subtract -2. There are ways to get bonuses or penalties or suffer penalties. Your roll will never be more than +4 or less than -3. So that is, I feel like that's one way that this is immediately different than City of Mist is. I don't think there's tags. There's no tags in this one, so you're not trying to add as many tags as you can. You use the stat
Like that.
which yeah, I'm fine with. And then it goes into the minutia of weak hits, strong hits. We already kind of talked about it. Weak hit 7 to 9, strong hit +10. But so that's the basics. I just wanted to get the basics of the rules out there. This is yeah.
Really quick, I like that they use the terms weak, weak and soft, because that's in martial arts. It's kind of internal and external martial arts.
Yeah. That's another thing in this game. It seems to have the theme throughout the rules, which is something that me and Gary was talking about. How thematic are the rules? So far, it seems like they are, which is good. But yeah, misses and failures. This is the kind of thing where when you guys fail a roll, this is why I said, make sure that you're supposed to roll, because if you fail a roll, bad stuff happens. It's typically the only way that the GM really interacts in PBTA. But we'll skip a lot of that.
Look at this. Okay, I learned something that could be of interest to our viewers and to you fellers. Each playbook, you have a different principle balance. You're trying to balance different parts of your character. And so you first, right, you pick your bending. So you want to be a firebender, then you come over here and you say, I want to be the hammer. And the hammer playbook is a fighter looking to solve problems by smashing them, even when it might not be the right solution. So your balance principles would be force versus care, because you're the hammer. If you pick somebody like the rogue, it might be friendship versus survival. Saving your friends versus keeping yourself alive, a very roguish things to do. The pillar, his is support versus leadership, so he needs to lean on people, but he needs to be leaned on as well. So a lot of really cool things in the playbooks there. As soon as you said there weren't tags, I started to wonder how these work.
Yeah. I remember from the playtest that you're going to have, everything is going to be a bar, and it's going to have opposing themes on it, like you said, like friendship, survival. They will oppose each other, so that you kind of have to make choices and stuff like that. So there's always this like inner conflict with your moves, and I feel like it promotes a really interesting style of gameplay. But in order to find out more about that, we'll dig into these core elements finally, Gary.
Yeah, let's do it. Let me get back up to the core elements.
Page 100.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? 110-ish? 100. Ah, yes, these core elements is what I was talking about just a moment ago. In the chapters that follow this one, you can find the rules to govern conversation, basic moves on 127, and playbooks on 164. That's where I was over there sneaking, scouting out ahead. But before you read on to those specifics, it's helpful to understand a few core elements of the game that show up in every section. Fatigue. Every companion has a fatigue track with 5 boxes on it. When you mark fatigue, that represents getting physically, mentally, and emotionally tired, stressed, or worn down. Once you've marked all 5 boxes, you're on the verge of collapsing, passing out. Nearly everything you do is too risky or too difficult and might put you out of action. Fatigue is simple, short-term cost that has a big impact on your character when it overwhelms them, but it doesn't affect them in the long term. You might mark fatigue when you bend the elements of a particularly stressful or difficult way, or when you want to strike out with them in a fight, but you can recover that lost energy by getting some rest, or when another companion guides and comforts you. It's on page 128. I think guides and comfort looks like it's going to be a basic move. So you can basic move somebody and help them recover some energy. Look at that. If you've marked all 5 fatigue boxes, then at any time the game rules give you a choice between marking fatigue or doing something else, you have to do the something else. If a move says that you marked fatigue to use the move, you can't use the move. If someone or something else inflicts fatigue on you involuntarily, then, since you have no boxes left to check, you mark the same number of conditions instead. Clearing fatigue. How do you get less fatigue? You can always guide and comfort, and they can guide and comfort you too. Guiding and comforting allows players to clear fatigue when your companions are there for each other, offering advice or support in times of need. So that's cool. It's a heal, but it's not just a physical heal, it's a mental and emotional heal. Of course, getting some rest always helps as well. If you get a chance for some time away from your troubling pressure and exciting adventure, then you can clear fatigue off screen. Sleeping rough like a night on the cold ground with rocks only clears 2 fatigue. A night's rest in a covered stable or barn would be 3 fatigue. A night's rest in a comfortable place like an actual house would be 4 fatigue, and a week's rest, even in the wilderness, a whole week will get you 5 fatigue cleared. You do need food and water to get the benefits as well. It's not the kind of thing you'll need to keep careful track of, but if you rest in the middle of the desert without any water at all, then you're not going to recover much fatigue, if any. The same goes for traveling. Unless you've arranged for highly comfortable, very secure passage, you're only going to clear 1 or 2 fatigue along a journey. Sure, you might get 1 or 2 restful days while stowing away in a freighter, but that takes you all the way from the Fire Nation to the North Pole, and the stress of avoiding guards, searching for food, and staying out of sight is still going to cost you fatigue. Conditions! A condition is an emotional state which leaves you uncomfortable and vulnerable. Every companion has 5 conditions they can mark when something particularly stressful happens to them. Afraid, angry, guilty, insecure, and troubled. If you don't have a condition marked, you might feel that emotion, but it won't last long or isn't intense enough to affect your actions. If you have a condition marked and you feel like the associated emotion at some deep level and it might affect your actions in some way, even if you don't remotely open up to show emotion to others. So, how should a character act when they're afraid or insecure? That's entirely up to you. An angry Kyoshi and an angry Aang are 2 very, very different people. The one thing predefined about the effect of each condition is how it affects specific moves you make, giving a penalty to the following moves. If you're afraid, you get a -2 to intimidate and call someone out. If you're angry, you get a -2 to guide and comfort and assess a situation. If you're feeling guilty, it's a -2 to push your luck and a +2 to deny a call out. Insecure, -2 to trick and resist shifting your balance. Finally, is troubled, you take a -2 to plead and rely on your skills and or training. Condition penalties are added to your stat along with any other modifiers, such as assessing the situation or any playbook moves. So an angry character with Harmony 1 would guide and comfort the other characters with a -3 modifier. They have a -1 Harmony, -3 modifier.
Can I just say this really quick? The afraid, angry, guilty, insecure, and troubled, those are just basically dark side stuff from Star Wars. Saying.
So you're telling me whenever you make the Star Wars TTRPG, you're going to lift some of those rules?
Yeah, you know what? That would be perfect. That would be perfect.
Honestly, I don't think you would need to change that much about this so far.
Yeah, you're right. All the bending would be force bending instead of specific elements.
I feel like there's probably 4 different disciplines of force, but hey, who knows? But yeah, weapons, it would work, I think, pretty well.
Taken out by conditions. If you've already marked all 5 conditions, you must mark another. You're taken out. You become unconscious, injured, distraught, or trapped. Your actions cannot trigger moves or affect the scene anymore. You're at the mercy of the characters in the scene and might be disarmed, captured, or otherwise limited. Even if a companion tries to guide and comfort you, you can't open up to them at all or clear any conditions. Not until after the scene ends, that's when you'll recover. After you've had some time off or your opposition frees you. When you recover, clear all marked fatigue, but keep all your conditions marked. You can remove the marked condition in a few ways. One of the other PCs might try to guide and comfort you. To clear afraid, you can run away from danger or difficulty. To clear angry, you can break something important or lash out at a friend. To clear guilty, you can make a personal sacrifice to absolve your guilt. If you're feeling insecure, you can take foolhardy action without talking to your companions. And if you're feeling troubled, you can seek guidance from a mentor or powerful figure.
So this is therapy, the TTRPG.
Yeah. Essentially that, yeah.
Each one of those things I just named, how to clear afraid, angry, guilty, insecure, and trouble, each one of them has their own small paragraph off on the right. If you need to further read that and see how that applies to your game.
Yeah. They got a huge little thing, yeah.
They do have a huge thing, and I feel like we just got the meat and potatoes of it, but I don't want to dig into those topics quite yet.
I mean, it's great if you have the book and just need examples, really.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, if you're especially a game master and you're coming across one of those scenes and what players could or couldn't do as an example, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That takes us to balance on page 102, and the balance is what I was talking about with the different cards. And I think the balance is, in City of Mist, you have that balance of trying not to become a full mythological legend or a full regular normie person. I think that's what's going on here. I think you're trying not to give in to one side of your character or other and balance your chi.
It's again Star Wars. Just saying, Star Wars. Must find balance in the Force, you must.
Every companion has a balance track that consists of 2 principles, core beliefs or ideals your character wrestles with throughout their adventure. These principles are opposed, but not directly. They represent different ways of thinking about the world or your character's problems, and rarely boil down to simple opposites. For example, a character whose first principle is self-reliance likely won't have a continued principle that makes them rely on others. Instead, they might have something like trust, representing the degree to which they are willing to believe that other players can take care of themselves. Principles, balance, and center, and so this is probably going to explain more of what it means. Each balance principle reflects a specific worldview, manifesting as part philosophy and part feeling. When they appear on your playbook, that means they're both important to your character and in tension with the other important principles establishing your character's inner conflict. During the story, your character's thoughts and experiences push and pull them towards one idea or the other. I really like the tracker. The tracker's fun. It's not just any coin fish. Those Those are the ocean and moon spirits from Last Airbender. But yeah, you track how you feel about your principles on the balance track, both your current balance and your center. The point to which you return to when you have time or rest. Your balance may shift as a result of those moves, or as a result of an NPC consciously or unconsciously shifting your balance towards a principle by how they speak and behave towards you. But your character's balance returns to the center over time. It's up to you to decide how much your current balance affects the way you play your character. A companion whose center is near the middle of the track might be actively pursuing one of the ideals, determined to shift that direction whenever possible. A companion near the edge of the track might be pushing back the other direction, hoping to avoid slipping over the edge of the track and losing their balance. There's no right answer. So it seems a little more loose than in City of Mist. It doesn't seem like you're going to become a thing if you slip too far. I think it just shifts your center a little bit. Like conditions,
So,
yeah.
don't you have to? Did they use the word balance principles at all? If you shift too far,
Yeah, there are things. There's something called calling you out, and there's something called lose your balance, which I guess is the rules of what happens when you lose your balance. But also, it says that your center only starts in the middle, so maybe that can also shift. But yeah, I guess we do.
there's a balance principles thing I see later in the book in the changing characters section. Where it looks like at some point you may have to like reset your character card and it resets your balance to 0. And I think that might be a result of losing your balance or falling too far off. You might have to pick a new card and start over.
Could be interesting, yeah. Like when Zuko lost his firebending.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Like conditions, your balance is a tool you can use to guide your character that has mechanical effects, but your balance doesn't limit your actions unless someone calls you out. The act to act in accordance with one of your principles or lose your balance. In those cases, you work with the GM to determine how your character acts when their internal struggle boils over into passionate action. So we're going to get more into it, so don't worry. In case you don't understand yet. Shifting your balance, I don't understand yet either, but when told to shift your balance towards one principle or the other, you move your balance however you track it, be it with a stone, a pencil, or whatever, towards the end of the track, where that principle is written. The moves on page 127 of Avatar Legends role-playing game often tell you when to shift your balance, but sometimes the GM will also do so for story decisions. When told to shift your balance towards your center, you shift your balance towards wherever your center is currently. When you're told to shift your balance away from center, you shift your balance away from center and toward one of your principles. If you are at your center and told to shift your balance away from center, you pick which way it shifts. No matter which direction you shift, you lose your balance if you shift off the end of one of your sides. And they're about to explain what that means. So we'll find out what happens right now. That's exciting. If a shift takes you over the edge, past the end of the track, you lose your balance. Characters who lose their balance, including NPCs, lose control of their powers, act out in accordance with their principles, or even give in to their opposition. They regain control after they have some time to recover, but they must shift their center as a result of the experience. You can never choose to shift your balance off the edge of the track and lose your balance, but several moves, including resisting shifting your balance, allow the GM or other players to shift your balance up to and over the edge of the track. They got a picture of Jet. He's a good one. That dude goes straight over the edge. Returning to center. Whenever time passes, or you have a chance to rest and reflect, reset your balance to your center. A single night usually isn't enough for your character to regain their composure and bring their balance back to center, but it's possible that a particularly calming location or practicing meditation might help you find yourself again. And then it talks about something that's very exciting, I'm sure, to everybody. It starts to talk about bending.
I wonder what it's going to say about bending.
I do too.
I wonder if it's going to be like a flavor paragraph or it's going to be rules.
It looks like it's mostly an explanation. Does not look like there's much rules in it. But hey, we'll read it because bending is cool.
In Avatar, The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra, most of the heroes are benders capable of amazing feats. The ones who aren't benders have incredible mastery of weapons or technology that rivals bending itself. But regardless of the bending prowess or other fantastic abilities, the stories of Avatar Legends aren't really about the companions bending. Instead, the characters use their bending to go on adventures in service of their broader story, finding their role in the world, exploring their drive inside their heart that moves them, caring for the people in their lives. Bending in Avatar Legends, the role-playing game, works the same way. You use it constantly, but it's not your story. All of the trainings, including bending, are tools that your character uses to get stuff done, whether fighting to protect the innocent from immediate harm or convincing political leaders to take problems of ordinary people seriously. What does that look like in the game? Trainings don't have a lot of limits, so it's up to you and your group to say when and how your training is useful. Sometimes it's obvious. I want to waterbend that boat so we can save the people on it. But sometimes it's a little more subtle. I want to earthbend out all the little handholds on the side of this building so we can climb up. Either way, the mechanics of Avatar Legends, the role-playing game, either support and challenge you as you use your powers. As you push yourself to accomplish great things with your training, you'll find costs and complications that make those accomplishments meaningful. When doing easy things, like lighting a small fire with your firebending, you won't need to invoke the game mechanics at all. You and your GM will simply say what happens. Yeah, so I feel like that really didn't say a whole lot, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so it's saying, I feel like what it's saying, mostly, which is kind of funny, is that, hey, this is not the game for the people that have always wanted to do the Bender Arena battle game. You know what I mean? That's not what this is.
Yeah, that's correct. This is not that. That's a good point.
It's not that at all. Like, I mean, you could do it, but like there'd be a lot more role play involved. There'd be a lot of story. Otherwise, it would just be people saying what they did, and then
It's pretty much saying that, at least from what I'm hearing, you're not going to have like a specific role to do specific things like other role playing games. Like there is a set formula of what you need a role to do this, to do that. This one where you're just going to talk and discuss and kind of create a story with everybody around you to move forward.
Yeah, which all really feeds back into the idea of Powered by the Apocalypse in general. It tends to be, it is story driven, and it, for someone that comes from more traditional RPGs, it is a bit of an adjustment, but I don't mind it because I do enjoy more hardcore roleplay. So, yeah, I do look forward to playing this.
The next part is preparing to play, starting a game. Some of this stuff is good to read, some of it maybe not necessarily. Like, we don't know that we need a space to play or make sure that we have a table big enough for everybody. Those don't really apply to us. Choosing an era does apply to us. And I remember when they first announced this little game and they had their little starter sheet, Jahan and I went through here and looked at the different eras and talked about them. And this time that I went through and read them, I think I like all of them except for Korra's era. I think I could play anything.
I enjoy I'm the same. Korra era would be an interesting thing to play because I do like kind of like that steampunk element. I do have some steampunk roots, but I will say of all the ones that's offered that I find most interesting though would probably be either the 100-Year War or if we do something like totally new with the upcoming Avatar arc with the upcoming Earthbender, which we know nothing about. Blank canvas.
Let's go through them here real quick. We got Kyoshi era. Covers the events right after the Shadow of Kyoshi novel. Play in the Kyoshi era if you want to fight battles against rogues and bandits and deal with corrupt governments as they establish nations with their borders. So to me, that's almost like a classic D&D experience. You've got the bandits, you've got a bunch of small city-state governments expanding borders, and you're dealing with local politics. I'm about that. That sounds like fun. Then the Roku era. Covers the time right after Sozin became Fire Lord, and before Roku married. Play in the Roku era if you want to deal with tensions between different nations and trials of maintaining an uneasy peace. Which to me doesn't sound so different than the other one.
I feel more political with that one.
Yeah, definitely this uneasy peace
Same.
and yeah.
If honestly, I would say if you want to liken that to Asian media, what is it? It's a lot of the drama, the C dramas, where they're very political. There is a lot of intrigue, and more be sly about type of stuff.
And I think that could be a lot of fun.
Vampire.
After Roku era, you have the 100-Year War, which was Michael Powell as his first pick, focused on the time just before Avatar Aang's awakening at the beginning of Avatar The Last Airbender. Play in the 100-Year War era if you want to rebel against unjust rule, protect the weak, and stand up to tyranny. Which to me, that last part of that sentence just sounds like every tabletop role-playing game in a nutshell. Protect the weak,
it is pretty
classic.
It is a pretty classic feel.
I just want to say, it's once again Star Wars. You are part of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, and pretty much no matter what you're doing, you're part of the Rebel Alliance for all three of these. That's why I was kind of like, they all sound great to me. After 100 years, you have the Aang era, set after the events of the Imbalance Comics trilogies, sometime after the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Play in the Aang era if you want to heal the world after tragedy and help push it into a brighter future. I think there's something really cool about the Aang era, too, where it's like all the horrible crap already happened and now they're just sort of fallout and tremors from it, and you're trying to help pick up the pieces.
Force Awakens.
Because you also have, you could have your bandits during that, and you could have your small, corrupt political factions trying to make moves on smaller towns. So to me, it's just, they all fit so beautifully. Finally, the Korra era is the last one that's listed. Covers a period that takes place after the events of the Ruins of Empire comic trilogy, sometime after the end of Legend of Korra. Play in the Korra era if you want to deal with the repercussions of imperialism and play in a modernized era.
I kind of like that one as well because they're essentially playing industrial era of Hong Kong and Shanghai around that time.
Yeah.
That may be my least favorite one, but only because imperialism in modernized era is like exactly what's wrong with the world right now.
True. Also want to add, I just thought of this, the Korra era, you could run Kung Fu Hustle.
Hell yeah, you could.
It's very true. I mean, I'm mostly okay with all of them. I think my least interested one would be the Roku era. I think my most would probably be 100-Year War or Kyoshi. The Aang era has a lot of potential because it's vague. Like, we don't really know what happens at all. It's not really felt out too much. So, like, I don't know, it gives me a lot of leeway. But, like, we see the end results, so I kind of have, like, a map. I don't know, it's probably the most well-defined time. The only problem I have with the 100-Year War is the genocide. I don't know if I want to really, like, mess with that too much, you know what I mean? Because, like, you can't stop it, like, it happens, and I don't know if I want to necessarily have to talk about that kind of thing.
I will also say with the setup of the 100-Year War, You also get some of that one. Once again, I'm going back in my Star Wars roots. But you know what? You get that really cool Clone Wars series,
Yeah.
the animated series Clone Wars.
Yeah.
You can touch on subjects like that.
Yeah, it does have like a Clone Wars feel.
But I gotta say, also, I just realized the Korra era. You do it immediately after the Korra storyline. You got like once again blank canvas, and also you get that industrial era, China, Asia kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what was that one movie called? Ip Man.
Oh yeah.
A little bit that Ip Man in.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. It is it's number 3, I think, on my list. I would say, even though I have my trepidations, 100 Year War is a really cool time. Kyoshi, I feel Kyoshi's probably the best one, in my opinion, for like flexibility and story. It's a great setting. It's a great time. She's a great avatar. And it could be cool. It could be cool to like play towards the end of her thing, and maybe you guys have to like go find Roku or something.
Also want to put out that if you do it towards the end of the Aang era, a move that I would highly suggest checking out to get some inspiration would be the Jet Li Once Upon a Time in China trilogy.
Oh, I've seen all of those.
Yeah, that's what the end of the Aang era,
No,
and give me vibes of.
it's been a minute. I remember renting those with my uncle at Blockbuster. So
Is that?
I remember renting those with my uncle from Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So it's been a minute, but yeah, we watched all 3 of those. That used to be me and my uncle's thing. He was, because he's Iranian, and I don't know why. It was just our way of bonding. We both liked kung fu movies, so we used to just rock that shit.
Yeah.
I just clicked around the rules and went to go see if you're playing the 100 War. It's back at the top on page 58. If you're playing the 100-Year War era, I was curious what sort of things they present in that era and test you with. And I was like, surely they didn't print the word genocide, right? What did they just ignore it?
Brutality of war.
Did they call it something else? And sure enough, on page 58 is the air nomad genocide and everything and all the consequences that come with it. And I was like, oh shit. There it is.
It does say that.
Yeah.
100%. They're not shying away from it. It is a thing that happened.
It is.
It did happen. Yeah.
It's good that they don't shy away from it, because like you can't really.
I was just curious if, as a player, if it was going to be like just kind of put a veil over what's going on.
Honestly, that kind of makes me more okay playing it, because they talk about how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. So that helps me not feel like I'm doing, because like you don't want to mess up even a fictitious historical genocide. You don't really want to mess it up.
Oh, and also want to put out the Roku era. It's essentially the 3 Kingdoms.
That's fair. That could be all right. They're all cool. I think
they're all cool.
I think the first 3 eras are my favorite. Honestly I think that they're kind of in order almost. If you switch Roku and Aang era, that would be the order from Kyoshi to Korra of my preference, I think. So Kyoshi, Aang, 100-Year War, Roku, and Korra last. No hate on Korra. I actually enjoy the show a lot. It's just
mine would be 100-Year War era, Korra, Goku, Aang, and then Kyoshi as last.
Oh damn, Kyoshi's dead last for you.
Man, you guys are almost completely flipped also.
Yeah.
My pick's a lot more in line with Jahan's. I would probably go Roku before Kyoshi though.
Interesting. It seems like our closest common ground would be the 100-Year War, actually.
100-Year War, I think. Yeah, I think all of us put that at number 2 or 3.
I think I put mine as 1. That's for me as 1.
Yours is 1. Mine's 3. I think, Jahan, you've got it at 3.
I think it's also 3 for me. But like my first 3 are very close.
And like I said when I was reading through them, you can tell some very similar stories throughout all 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to be a make or break deal for me. The one that really feels apart is Korra to me. That universe feels very different compared to the rest.
I like them mainly for the fact that if you kind of base them off of different eras of martial arts films or Chinese movies, you pretty much have the Kyoshi to the Korra era, with the Wuxia being the Kyoshi era, and then you have the more modern, kind of kung fu with the Jet Li and Jackie Chan with Korra.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, so one of my favorite movies is Drunken Master, and that well, I think it's mostly the second one has a lot to do with industrialization.
Yeah.
And Western influence and blah blah blah. So I mean, it definitely has its place and can be very cool.
And also, it's also sometimes kind of fun to play in that era because you could you could play the big damn heroes who are stamping out injustice and the wrongdoings and stuff like that. It's kind of fun to do that.
I mean, you can do that in most of the eras though.
True. But it just I don't know, just seems more prevalent. I don't know.
Yeah, you want to drive a car.
Yeah.
There's some rules that always apply, and these are some rules to keep your group from being murder hobos. I think in Avatar Legends, the role playing game, this is all these things are true, and they will always be true. You play a team of heroic young companions who've stepped up to make the world a better place. You are all skilled martial artists. Regardless of your training, every one of you is a skilled martial artist prepared to spar and scuffle with competent opponents. Even companions who focus on technology have taken some self-defense classes and can handle themselves in a fight. You have all answered the call willingly. You might have been pressured to take on the role of a hero or taken on the role because you feel guilty, but you've chosen to be part of this team. That's why your team won't fracture or collapse at the first conflict. So you're all agreeing you want to be a team. If your character doesn't want to be a team, maybe don't play that character.
I do like that. Honestly, I feel like that should just be kind of an unspoken rule in most games. Some games it's okay to play against and to have that kind of strafe, but for the most part, you're part of a team.
I can think of one character in fiction who does it well, and that's Wolverine. Wolverine's a lone wolf who's part of the team, and I don't know how he does it, but he does. He's just brooding, and he's whiny, and he's pissed off, and he storms out, but he's always there when the team needs him, even though he pretends he doesn't need the team. He certainly does.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way you can get away with a role like that, is if you channel your inner Wolverine. If your character does actually want to be there, you just sort of pretend you don't.
Yeah.
It's essentially the grumpy uncle who deep down inside is warm and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he deep down inside, he does love his family, and he'll come back and save them, even though he hates all of them.
Complain the entire time, but he'll do it.
You aren't killers or villains. You're a team of young heroes. You've made mistakes, and you've hurt people in the past, but you aren't killers or villains. You don't solve problems by hurting people without regard for consequences. If your team feels the need to take more drastic action, like killing a dangerous villain to save lives, you might grapple with the moral complexities of killing as a solution to difficult problems. The next one.
Where are you?
Page 105.
Okay, I just shot past it a little bit.
The next one is you are friendly. While some of the other companions might give you a headache or roll eyes at each other's silly antics, you're all friendly with each other. You might have only met during the inciting incident, or still be learning about each other, but you know your adventures will draw you closer. It's okay to be rivals with your teammates, or even a bit jealous sometimes, but you're all closer friends than not. If your character ever comes to believe they're entirely at odds with the other PCs, perhaps even bitter foes or enemies, that's a sign it may be time for you to make a new companion who fits in better with the group. You're still growing and learning. All of the heroes of Avatar Legends, regardless of age, are all still learning about who they are and what they care about. You balance your two principles. They're in tension because you haven't decided what you care about most, and your adventures are in part about discovering what truly matters to you. So those are some things that make this game.
I mean, you're playing with friends. You're supposed to be all having a good time. Once people aren't having a good time, doing something wrong.
I mean, yeah, it stops a lot of that dickish nature of certain people. It's good. I like it.
Yes,
I
some
prefer this
games-
kind of dynamic. Anyways, it's more fun.
I like this dynamic, and I probably prefer this dynamic. Yeah, I think you're right. I prefer it, but I also like being able to play in role-playing games that have a little bit of people at each other's throats, or there might be some distrust in the group. I think there's something fun about that, but not in Avatar. This is a game about playing as a small group of friends. I get it. Yeah, that's not what this game is.
Conflict. It's conflict.
Yeah, you can have some
My-
conflict, but not necessarily. Yeah.
The thing is basically, if we're gonna have that conflict, gonna have to have something like that. Discuss out of game. This is gonna happen, and set boundaries with each other first.
Yeah, and that's session zero talk, which I always do session zero now. We always do that on our channel now because it is effective.
So that's about the end of the fundamentals of play section, which takes us to the making characters section.
Yeah, the first part of that we already talked about. Setting up your game is choosing the era. After that, you choose scope. So everyone gets input on like what they want to focus on. Now that you know when your game takes place, it's time to decide where. The scope of your game measures how much of the four nations you expect to explore over the course of play. I appreciate this because twice, I've said this story before, twice I have made a fantasy setting. 2 times. And the players beelined it for the coast at the first possible chance, stole a boat, and then left everything I prepared. So the scope helps with this because you're gonna say that that's kind of what you're gonna do in the first place, and then I'll prepare thusly. But yeah. So how much of the four nations are you expecting to play? Are you interested in having every episode take place somewhere new? Or would you rather zoom in on just one location? And I mean, Avatar, The Last Airbender, and then Korra, Legend of Korra, those highlight the two opposite
Both
ends.
examples.
Yeah. So, Aang, if you want to play a game like Avatar: Last Airbender where you're traveling, that is a broad scope, and then the narrow scope would be if you just want to play Republic City, Ba Sing Se, that kind of thing. So if your scope is broad, extending across the whole Earth Kingdom, the entirety of the world's oceans, or the whole world, you might sail by ship or fly by bison from destination to destination, solving problems which affect multiple states and peoples. Avatar Kyoshi and Avatar Aang both had stories with extremely broad scopes, going on adventures and that required them to travel the whole world. A broad scope might focus on water tribe refugees from the South Pole traveling north to seek shelter in the capital of Agna Quella during the 100-Year War. That's a pretty cool story. If your scope is narrow, focusing on Ba Sing Se or Agna Quella or the Foggy Swamp, you might explore a single region or a city in great depth and detail. You might occasionally visit outside the location, but always return to the original site. So that's something that we will talk about, in the session zero. What you guys want to be doing. Once you determine your scope, you briefly describe it on the campaign creation worksheet, which we have copies of. So that's cool. I like that.
I like the choosing scope because it does really help the game master kind of prep the story that they want to run,
and it helps you guys get to play what you want. Because
I would say a huge scope for the first play of this game. I want to see everything that there is to see in Avatar World, but if we ever played a follow-up, I would probably, just like Korra, I would want to do a focus city on my second one.
I want to hit for the coast.
There you go. I mean, we
Yeah,
can do
can
it.
you prepare a city for us, and then we'll just fly away on a bison?
Oh god, I'd be so fucking mad. Yeah, that bison would be shut down.
That's the
I'm
first of the genocide. That's the first
I'm not
bison
sure
to
how
go.
I'm gonna drift that bison.
Somehow it gets struck by lightning, and then he gets eviscerated on a weather vane. Everyone's covered in gore.
But we eat him, and he tastes good, and we get to remove some fatigue.
Yeah, that's fair.
Show.
Sure. You eat them while crying. But after that, you choose a group focus, which I don't necessarily know right out,
They are
out of hand.
They're right there.
Yeah, they're right there.
Underneath. There's a cool little example. So this is like whenever we picked our crew theme in City of Mist.
Yeah.
So you're just sort of picking a group focus here. So the thing that they have it listed as a group, choose one of the following verbs to be your group focus. Then determine the object of that verb's action. Ooh, English class. So what it might look like is to defeat, and then quotes, dangerous foe. Your verb is defeat, and then you find the subject, the object of that verb's action, which is the foe's name. So, defeat Roku, maybe. Or
to defeat Fire Lord Ozai.
Or to protect the Water Nation. Or to change the
Republic City.
Or to deliver a thing.
Aang. To the Northern Air
place,
Temple.
Culture or person. To rescue a person or thing. Like
Princess
Sky
Yue.
Bison.
Or, Sky Bison, yeah.
And
I like
to learn idea, culture, training, or history.
By finding the lost library of Wan Shitong.
So let's see.
I like this because
It'd be fun.
It just it's just a clear goal. Everybody knows the goal of the story right off the bat. So we're not going to be kind of all over the place. It focuses the story.
And you don't necessarily have to know everything because, like, for an example, the beginning goal of Team Avatar was to deliver Aang to the Air Temple. That was the original goal. And once they found out what happened, that's when it changed to get to the Northern Water Tribe and blah, blah,
I'm so glad you said that, because here at the bottom of this little chapter, this little page, it says, just like your scope, your group focus may evolve as you play.
Boom!
But big changes like moving from protecting a place to defeating a villain threatening the world may be a sign that it's time for a new season.
That's fair.
Save the Bisons becomes to find the best bison burger recipe ever.
Because you guys didn't save the bison?
No, we did save him, and then we
now you're gonna weed him?
Yeah, and then we feed him to the town. We're really throwing everybody for a loop there. In fact, our characters serving delicious bison burger is the reason that the Sky Bison started to just get genocided, because people found out how tasty they were. So that's on us, and that's the campaign we're gonna play.
Those air bison poachers are pretty cool. Outline the inciting incident. In order to flesh out the group's focus, you need to create an inciting incident to start your game off with some action. The inciting incident is the plot of your series pilot episode. The story of how companions meet one another and committed blah blah blah. So, I mean, you find the kid in the iceberg. But yeah, so you're going to start by picking a place within your scope where this incident happened. Then, as a group, choose 3 of the following. 1 for each act of the opening story.
Well, that's cool. You're building your whole episode, not just one event.
You're building the first episode for me, so thank you. I don't have to do it. So yeah, we'll run through. We befriend Ally, who gave us access to valuable item. So you befriended Aang, that gave you access to Appa.
That one's a little too classic for me. You befriend a wizard who gives you a magic item.
It's fair.
I'm not feeling that one.
We discovered a secret hidden by powerful figure. Let's go on.
Secret sauce.
Yep.
We did something fun, but through the ire of powerful figure.
Chef Boyardee.
We learned the frightening plans of powerful foe.
Chef Boyardee.
And then in Act 2, we steal valuable item from powerful foe.
Burger helper.
We discovered a terrible truth about location or powerful figure.
The Arby's hat.
Okay. We defended ally or place from powerful foe.
Winston
Oh,
Churchill.
parking lot at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, McDonald's parking lot from Winston Churchill. That's how we all met.
This is like a weird game of Clue. We destroyed valuable item and drew the ire of its owner, Winston Churchill.
we destroyed an urn, and we drove the ire of Paul Bearer and the Undertaker.
Oh no! I'd run that game. And then Act 3, we fought and barely defeated a powerful foe, nearly escaped capture by a powerful foe,
Lesnar.
Saved or rescued ally from powerful figure.
The Wendy's girl.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Or we were
from
saved.
the Taco Bell Chihuahua.
Or we were saved from powerful foe by ally, to their own detriment.
Avatar, the last fast food bender.
Hell yeah.
After that, it gets into the You're the Hero and choosing playbooks section. So there are several playbooks. This is separate from the type of bender you are. So this is separate from bender or weapon master or technology. These are the playbooks that Gary was talking about earlier. I'll jump through them. There are 10. I'll just say their names. The Adamant, the Bold, the Guardian, the Hammer, the Icon, the Idealist, the Pillar, the Prodigy, the Rogue, and the Successor. Those are cool. Those are all very cool. So you're gonna pick one of those.
Favorites. What's your favorite guys of the ones that got listed?
I was going to ask what the successor is, but immediately I'm drawn to the Hammer, someone who solves problems by smashing.
The success. I mean, we can dive into it. The Adamant will fix the world, even if it means breaking all the rules. Play the Adamant if you want to contend with what doing right means in a complicated world. So that's really,
not bad at all.
That's starting off strong. That's really good. The Bold fights to live up to their self-image and earn others' trust and confidence. Play the Bold if you want to build your reputation and leadership skills. The Guardian defends someone close to them, steadfast and watchful. Play the Guardian if you want to be the first to see danger coming and the last line of defense. The Hammer, this is the one that Gary had read earlier, is strong, tough, and looking for a deserving face to punch. Play the Hammer if you want to grapple with what force can and can't solve. The Icon comes from an ancient tradition and inherits some serious standards to live up to. Play the Icon if you want to be torn between your heart and your duty. The Idealist.
Actually, there's stuff in the Icon that sort of reminds me of you, Michael Powell. Maybe not even you as a character, but you as a person. A chosen figure of an ancient tradition expected to carry forward the duties of their role regardless of what they want. Their principles are role versus freedom.
Hey,
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, look, that's Michael Powell.
It's Michael Powell.
That's how I perceive you anyways.
Thank you.
The Idealist has a past full of suffering and tragedy that strengthened their beliefs. Play the Idealist if you want to awaken the hope in everyone around you. The Pillar is an experienced team player and leader of a famous group of warriors. Play the Pillar if you want to be a savvy tactician who binds the team together. The Prodigy not only excels at their training, but has taken it even beyond their master's teaching. Play a Prodigy if you want to stretch the limits of your training and abilities. The Rogue is a rule breaker, a joker, and a delinquent. A figure on the fringes who snipes at the people in charge. Play the Rogue if you like the idea of being a troublemaker. And then finally, the Successor comes from a powerful Tarnished lineage. Play the Successor if you want to struggle against your lineage as it threatens to draw you in. That is Zuko. I like the Successor. I like the Idealist. And I like the Adamant, I think, are my favorites. But they're all really cool. They're all very strong. None of them are dumb. Like, they're all good.
Mine is the Pillar, the Rogue, and do you like the Icon?
I think we all like different ones. I like Prodigy, Adamant, and Hammer.
Hammer. Yeah, absolutely. After that, so once you pick one of those 10, Then you do your character concept.
You only pick one?
Yeah, you only pick one playbook.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. Your playbook represents your core elements. Yeah, so you only play one.
Interesting.
Everyone
Very
except the
cool.
GM chooses one of these at character creation. Each playbook can only be used by one player, so no doubling up. This is because each playbook is more than a collection of powers. They give each character specific tools and challenges tailored to the individual in order to help each player tell a certain kind of story and differentiate the characters from the other companions in the campaign. Imagine if there were two Kataras in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah, they probably would have fucking gotten more shit done.
I figured they would hate each other.
Yeah, probably.
I was gonna say, what if you're playing twins with someone?
Katara was not the best at making friends initially. She was a
No.
pretty small circle.
No, but she's definitely a badass.
Oh, she's a badass,
They were
no
all
doubt.
badasses, though. Yeah, and then after that, you're going to choose character concept. So, making your character fully come together so that their high passion and their waterbending and their urban background all add up to a whole is one of the biggest jobs you have during character creation. Here are a few things to keep in mind as you move forward. So this is just kind of the idea of character concepts. So don't worry about it. But yeah, naming your character. Are you from the Earth Kingdom, Water Tribe, Fire Nation, Air Nomads? They have names. Interesting. That's cool. So they have Air Nomad names, and it has the name of the real life culture that it comes from, and then its meaning. So the first one is Aditi, which is a Hindi word for boundless. And so that's pretty cool. I like that they do that.
I thought that was cool too.
So it looks like all the Air Nomad names are Hindi, Tibetan, and Nepali, which is cool. Then the Earth Kingdom's names are all Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean, some Japanese, but they're mostly all Chinese. Fire Nation names looks like mostly Japanese, with one Chinese name and a bunch of Mongolian put in. Interesting. And then the polar tribes come from different indigenous tribes around the world. So the polar water tribe, Algonquin, the Inuit, I'm going to say this wrong, but the Anishinaabe. So different tribes. And then they have the foggy swamp water tribes as well, which have names rooted in Khmer, Chinese, and Vietnamese.
Surprised they didn't have some traditional Cajun names for the swamp.
It'd be kind of funny.
Those swamp rednecks were Cajun as hell.
They were funny, dude. I love
Yeah,
them.
they were. Those are the guys that I would play if there were an Avatar movie that I was in. I don't get to play anybody else, but I get to play a swamp bender, and I don't want to hear any arguments. I look like a swamp hillbilly anyways. Just let me jump in the mud for a second. Ride around an airboat.
Yeah. After that, you pick your training, which you've already talked about several times, but yeah, waterbending, airbending, earthbending, firebending, weapons, or technology. And if you pick weapons or technology, you're not going to be any worse off than any of the benders. So the weapons and technology will see you through as well.
One of the things I really love about Avatar, the way they designed like the bending, is the fact that bendings are also corresponds to a different martial arts. Like, what is it? Water bending is like Tai Chi. Hungar is earth bending. Then you have like a Zhang or a Shaolin for air, and then fire, I believe. No, fire is actually Chung, I think.
Yeah, each of them imitates a real life one, and then I like even the variations among there, because Toph does not do the typical earthbending. She uses mantis style, which is really cool.
She does. She has some mantis mixed in. It's like horse style and mantis style combined.
It's very interesting. Yeah. So yeah, it's very cool for sure.
And I think what Fire Nation is like tiger and leopard style.
So you're going to pick that, and then you're going to pick your background. And these are typical, kind of traditional TTRPG backgrounds. When you think about them that way, it's a little easier. Military, monastic, outlaw, privileged, urban, or wilderness. Pretty much covers everything. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.
I got a question for you guys. Of these three offered bending styles, which ones are your favorites?
The bending styles?
Bending or the weapons and technology, all six of them included.
I mean, I've always felt like I'd be an earthbender, so.
Yeah, in the show, I was a huge fan of earthbending. But in this game, I actually haven't looked a lot at the weapons loadouts yet, or the technology loadouts. But I was a huge fan of the way firebending plays in this game. And I'm probably going to be from Fire Nation, but either I'll be a firebender or a weapons guy, probably, because I could see myself being like a really big, fat Chinese guy with like a big hammer or like a big mallet over my shoulder, with like a midriff shirt and my fat belly sticking out. I could totally see me doing that.
I'm gonna have to say, for me, it's just always loved airbending, but I also do like the technology here, actually, because, you know, doing that whole Rube Goldberg type of thing I do with Max in Modern Age, so fun.
Yeah, tech's cool. I would do earthbending or weapons, I think.
Yeah, I'm attracted to weapons a little bit. Maybe have a big hammer, a big mace, but I also didn't come all this way and wait all these years to play an Avatar game so that I wouldn't be a bender. You know what I mean? This is my chance. I could swing a hammer in any game.
Fair enough. Hometown, you're going to pick a hometown. You get to pick where you're from. You can pick from any of the major cities or a smaller one that no one knows about. You're going to pick your demeanor. Every playbook has 6 demeanors, which are ways your character tends to behave in social situations. So choose one or more from the options listed, or make up your own. It's kind of open. It doesn't affect the game, but it's good to just have it set. Choose what you look like. Everyone knows that kind of thing. And then there are some history questions. Under history, on the back of the playbook, you'll find 5 questions about your character's story so far. Take a moment to answer these. And so it helps you flesh out your character's backstory. The first question concerns your character's motivation, why they act as they do, and what's most important to them. The next 2 are about the NPCs most important to you. The GM will play these characters, obviously. The 4th question is about objects or symbols that belong to you. And then the 5th is about why you're committed to the group. So you answer all those questions and you're pretty much set on your character. But then there are stats. There are 4. They are creativity, focus, harmony, and passion. Every hero in Avatar Legends role-playing game has 4 stats. These numbers define your character's strengths and weaknesses across 4 parts of their personality. In game terms, they describe how strong if they're positive, or weak if they're negative. Your character is certain actions involved in those aptitudes. I'm not going to explain those 4 things because they're words and they mean things. Every playbook starts with a predetermined set of stats. Most playbooks start with 2 stats plus 1, 1 plus 0, and 1 minus 1. Although some, especially those you might find in additional expansion materials, have plus 2, 2 zeros, and a negative 1. Whatever your initial stats are, add plus 1 to one of those stats. So you start with a standard array, essentially, and then you are going to add plus 1 to one of your choice. Pretty simple. It's important to remember you can only raise a stat to plus 3 by choosing a special move that increases the stat to plus 3. Your character starts with 5 tracks on the fatigue. There's a conditions section, but you shouldn't start with any. And then balance. Every PC has a balance track on their playbook, which measures the push and pull of your character's beliefs. You'll find each of the 2 poles marked with with a principle, an idea about yourself. However, these 2 ideas are always in tension. So we talked about that a little bit earlier. So that's where those come into play. There's moments of balance. We've already talked about that. We talked about most of it at this point. I feel. What do you think, Gary? You're muted.
Oh, I'm feeling pretty good about it, man. I feel like we got into the big meat and potatoes. I always say meat and potato. I feel like we got into the chunk of this. We done chunked it. I feel like we could play this. I feel like probably the most important part is having your playbook that shows you your skills. Then you add one, and then you could play this game. I feel like really the playbooks is all you need.
It is, yeah. It's pretty easy character creation. It's not too complicated. So yeah, I guess we're towards the end here. There is a section about combat techniques. There's also connections, how you're connected to the other companions. That's probably going to be important as well. And there's combat techniques. Growth questions, which are going to be, I think they're going to be questions similar to like geeking out during the credits.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks like each card has its own growth questions on it.
For those of you listening that don't know what geeking out during the credits is, growth questions are just going to be questions that you're going to ask at the end of a session to see if your character developed in a particular direction, to essentially gain experience and level up.
For the hammer archetype, their question is, did you make progress toward your goal against your adversary? And so basically just at the end of the session, you make sure that you still have an adversary and that your character has a goal, and remember to work towards it. Okay. I don't even know if you get anything for answering your growth question. I think you're supposed to remind yourself that you have one. Perhaps.
Then it gets into basic moves, guiding and comfort. The moves have some heft a little bit, but they don't look too bad. Yeah, I guess they're not that complicated. I'll give you an example, though. Intimidate. When you intimidate an NPC into backing off or giving in, roll with passion. On a hit, they choose one. On a 10+, first you pick one they cannot choose. So on a hit, they can choose to run away, to escape, or get backup. They can back down but keep watch. They can give in with a few stipulations. They can attack you, but off balance. The GM marks a condition on them. Or if you got a 10 or higher, you can pick one of those they can't pick ahead of time.
I figured it out for the growth questions.
Okay.
Well, so once you answer your 4 check marks, so you check your growth. You check 4 boxes. Once you've done it, you get a growth advancement. You can take a new move from your playbook, take a new move from another playbook, raise a stat by 1, shift your center by 1, or unlock your moment of balance. And it looks like you can do each of those things twice. There's little check boxes next to that also. That way you don't just keep taking new moves from other playbooks for every single level up always. So it kind of gives you these options for answering your growth questions.
And can I say, I really like the rogue's growth question. Did you get a friend to join in or approve of one of your bad habits?
Oh, that's a good one.
It's pretty funny.
And if you did, you get a check mark.
You get a check mark.
So all your friends could just tell you no and never let you level up. That'd be so busted.
God, that's tough, though.
Yeah, I feel like that's something we would do to Zach. He would play the rogue, and we would be like, no, Zach, we're not going to do your stupid plan. And then he wouldn't level up, and he'd get mad at us.
That'd be funny. Yeah. So there is more, with any Powered by the Apocalypse game, a lot of the heft is in the playbooks. That's where you get a lot of the, like, minutia rules and that kind of thing. But it typically just gives you a framework for when things are going to happen. With that, I feel like we've pretty much covered the whole book.
Oh.
I like it. I'm excited to play. I like it more this time than I did when we did our playtest read. I feel like I understand it a lot better since we have played a PBTA game. So ever since we played City Mist, I understand this a lot better. So
I'm a big fan of these PBTA games. I've only played a couple, seen a couple. I'd like to see more. I want to play more. I'm a fan of the system as a whole, I think.
Yeah. What do you think?
Same.
Yeah, same. Okay.
Like I said, I'm actually glad that played City of Mist kind of laid out the groundwork for us, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though City of Mist is also a heavily modified version of a Played by Apocalypse game, right?
It is. It is not the. It's not the example that most people would use for PBTA because it's very different, but it is still a good example.
It has elements in it where, because we play Sea and Mist, I understand some of the stuff that's presented here in Avatar a lot more, and
Yeah.
I'm actually really eager to explore more, Powered by Apocalypse games.
Same. Among them, there is, what is there? From the same creators of Avatar Legends, there's Masks, which is a PBTA superhero game. Then there's also Blades in the Dark, that's PBTA.
Yeah.
There's a million indie games that use this system now. It's very popular. So to anyone who's interested in tabletop RPGs and like trying new stuff, I would suggest trying PBTA at least once, because it will open up a whole vast just repertoire of games that you could play. You can just play so many games.
I want to say Powered by Apocalypse is basically improv class for actors.
It
like
is.
A lot of yes-anding.
There's a lot of yes-anding. There's a lot of shared creation. There's a lot of player ownership in the story. You guys actually get to influence things a lot, which is cool.
And I also like the fact that you could play, say, you could be a wizard that's in heavy armor, and you don't have to really worry about the crunchy rules mechanic with that.
That's the other thing. Yeah, you can in this PBTA, you could typically play the character you want without exception. You can almost always fit most things into a lot of the settings. Obviously, you're not going to be an armor-bound wizard in Avatar, but hey, you could be Clicky Clicky Boom Man, who wore heavy armor and could blow stuff up in his mind, so close enough.
The combustion man.
Combustion Man, there you go. But yeah, so this is Avatar Legends for Magpie Games. Thank you, Magpie Games, for sending me these books. Thanks for sending us the PDFs. We look forward to doing our actual play series in a month or two. Very excited for that, and I hope everyone watching, check it out. They have a quick play available if you just want to scope it out for yourself. It has everything you need to play a session. So check that out. But I've been Johananon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Box, and also Fresh Out the Podcast. If you want to know about movies, streaming shows, and video games that are current, check out Fresh Out the Podcast. Right now we're talking about Mandalorian. Right now we're talking about Ted Lasso. Right now we're talking about Vampire Survivors, the video game. So we're talking about things. We're playing stuff. If you like tabletop role-playing games, give us a follow. Give us a like. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us at twitch.tv/Johananon. Follow Jahan at RockFact. Follow me at CasualtyCDG. We're doing this every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Always playing new games with new people, teaching new rules, and just trying to make you laugh or cry, or just trying to make you feel anything, really. You emotionless, soulless corpse of a person.
I just want to say I love Vampire Survivors. Such a fun game, and also you just get sucked into it. But anyway, I am Michael Powell, aka Mr. Kapow. That's MRKAPAO. And you can find me all over the internet, also on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Michael Powell Does Stuff, because I do a lot of stuff, like my YouTube channel, Fantastic Tales of Adventure. My current schedule right now is, I believe, Wednesdays. I'm usually here for usually our City of Mist game. Then Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm on the Toyzilla Network channel for Toyzilla Live, where we talk about toys and collectibles. And then every other Friday, back here at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Modern Age. And yeah, I am planning to make my debut, to actually return to Twitch, streaming from my actual own channel finally.
Oh shit!
Next month, and this upcoming weekend, at least for Friday and Saturday, I will be at WonderCon.
Congratulations on your return to Twitch. Real quick plug, there's a project I've been freelancing on. They're going live on Kickstarter coming up soon. Check out Cthulhu Dreamt on Kickstarter. Comes out, I think, in 4 days. And I've contributed, and I'm going to continue to contribute, and blah, blah, blah. So check it out. Friends of mine, good people. Check out their Kickstarter. But yeah, so thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Magpie Games for the books, and stay fresh.